Well, I have a weirder story to tell because the way I got my very large grant from the Gates Foundation is that one day I got a call from my secretary saying, there's somebody on the line from the Gates Foundation, do you want to talk to them? And I said, what? Gates Foundation? And I said, sure. And they started talking about the online writing lab, the Purdue OWL, and what they might be able to do to make the Purdue OWL a more interactive entity, to bring in social networking, to bring in gamification, to bring in, kind of one of the things that students were interested in. And when they started talking about it, they were talking about $100,000 or so, and we were thinking about $100,000 or so. It was very interesting because it was clear that they had done a lot of research into Purdue, into the online writing lab, into me personally. I just kind of like, I don't know, So my first piece of advice is to sit by the phone and wait for somebody to call you. But I don't think that's the most productive piece of advice I can give. As we discussed this, and I was discussing it with a program director, it morphed from $100,000 to $1.4 million. The Purdue development people became very interested at that point, and started helping me develop the grant and develop the ideas. I would say the biggest influence on the grant writing was the program director with the Gates Foundation, though. He really walked me through writing the grant. He read drafts, he asked for pieces of it. He helped put together the different organizations that the foundation had worked with previously that we could fit into working with our grant. And so I think that just working with the program director was what really brought this grant about. Now our grant is not really a research grant, so I'm not sure that I really should be here. We're developing what we started actually the proposal, we called it the IOWL, which stood for Interactive OWL. And then when we started actually working on it, we realized that it was going to get really mixed up with Macintosh, and it was going to be a big problem. So we turned it into the HOWL, which is totally meaningless, but every variation we tried, when we Googled it, came up with something I've seen for the first 20 hits, and we figured out we don't want to start there. So we started calling it the HOWL, and it kind of stands for High School OWL, but we don't want to call it High School OWL because although it's aimed at high school students, if it's called High School OWL, high school students won't want to use it. The idea behind what they want us to do is essentially to build a thing that will help students achieve the core standards and make the transition into college easier for them. Now, I'm not a fan in many ways of the core standards, but I'm also aware of the kind of work that the WPA and Cs have been doing and coming up with kind of quality issues that are another way of looking at developing writing. And when I started writing these into the grant and talking about them with our other partners, they were really, this really went over extremely well. It was just a better way of talking about it than other ways that they had done it. The Gates Foundation is this kind of huge monster organization with a bazillion different programs and program developers and project managers, and what they're looking for is something that will kind of fit into their overall goals of improving students' education and, again, their transition from in writing, specifically for us, from high school into college. But unlike all of their other projects, we are not aimed at the classroom. We are aimed at the individual student. And that's why they came to us, because the online writing lab is not aimed at classrooms, although it's used by classroom teachers. It's not aimed at it, it's aimed at the individual student. And so what they were hoping we could do was work from that base and move, again, keep the focus on the individual student, because all of the other people they worked with were developing classroom-based materials either for high school or college. And we're looking at something that would be a social networking site, we have some gamification qualities. It would be something attractive and useful for students to use, and something from which they could make connections to the online writing lab and learn to use it, learn the language. I mean, you can't look something up on the OWL unless you know the language. You need to look something up to sort of help learn the language. And to help them have fun. And I think the fun factor is something that we've kept in the middle of the project right from the beginning. If it's not fun, it's classwork. You know, if it's classwork, other people are doing it. And we need to kind of fit in with what is being done in classes, but not as a supplement, not as extra exercises, but as something that individual students will be motivated to go to in the way that they're motivated to go to Facebook or just any other sort of the other sorts of games that students play, the sorts of writing groups, particularly fan websites and all sorts of other writing that students actually do. And they can transfer from that writing that they're actually doing into academic writing. So it's been a real challenge because everybody who's working on the project, and we have 3 institutions involved in the project. We're all teachers. We're all used to classroom development, and kind of pushing it at the individual student, and trying to keep school behind it rather than in front of it has been the real challenge. Has been the real challenge to the project. So in developing the project, it was really working with the development officer from Gates, who really drove us through the process, or drove me through the process of writing the grant, along with 4 or 5 of my colleagues at Purdue and colleagues at 2 other institutions that we've been working with. $1.5 million sounds like a whole lot of money, because it's a nonprofit foundation, they only can have 10% off of it, which still leaves us with a lot of money. But there's a lot of expense that goes into developing this kind of tool. And the budgeting was just a total nightmare. And as I'm working my way through it, I've been working on it. I've worked my way through it about 8 months now in terms of actually managing it. I can see all the things I should have budgeted for that I didn't, and all the things that I would have thought of if I had that experience before. But I think that working with the program director is, if you have somebody you can work with, that's really crucial. Working with your university development people is also very important. We had a lot of trouble with that because there was a lot of musical chairs going on among the people in development and sponsored programs, and so there were a lot of new people, and that made it very difficult. But we just kind of plugged on through and got the grant. I want to back up a little though, because it's like Cinderella. It's like the prince doesn't come very often and make the phone call and talk about the lesser things that we've done, because these are things that are much more things that you can do individually rather than just kind of wait for it to fall from the sky. Because I direct the writing lab, people coming to me all the time with, can you help us do this? Can you help us do that? And can you, we need writing across the curriculum. We don't have a program at Purdue. We'll never have a program at Purdue. We so totally decentralized that there isn't required course in the school, in the university. Courses are only required by departments and schools. Nothing's required by the university as a whole. So it's right across the curriculums. They're never getting. The president is trying for a core, first 2-year general studies curriculum. We'll see, but we do have people. There's an enormous amount of interest in student writing there who come to us. And when they first started coming to us, we were going, oh yeah, we can do this, and we can do this, and we can do this. And we were doing all of our own budget, and it was expensive. And we were taking time away from tutoring and kind of more intrinsic work with the writing lab to working for other departments who were rich. The ag school and the engineering school, the agriculture and engineering are kind of rolling in money compared to the English department. And so what we've come to do over the last 2 or 3 years is say, okay, we can run a workshop for you, and we can put it up on the OWL, and you can use it again, and we can take your students in. We'll tutor them, but if you want us to do something more, then you write grants, write us into your grant as part of whatever project that you're working on. And so far we've gotten written into grants from the agriculture school, the engineering school, and we're working on the veterinary school right now. So we kind of give them a little taste and make sure it's good, and then but it's always kind of, so if you want more than this, we can't pay for it. We know you're writing grants all the time. Many of them are education-oriented grants. Let us work with you and let us know what we can do. Write us in. And so now we have several graduate students who are being paid either hourly or as part of their assistantships by other departments to do projects with those departments, which is just really a kind of nice extension of the work we're doing. So we learned not to give away things for nothing, which is, I think, a very important thing to learn because we're very used to doing what we're asked to do. The other thing, the other thing we did was the Indiana Department of Transportation came to us and wanted us to develop some workshops for their engineers. We're actually practicing PhD engineers, but who were all of Chinese origin, and essentially their director had to rewrite all their work, and they wanted an engineering-specific ESL directed set of workshops and tutorials. And so once again, we got a grant with them through the School of Civil Engineering, brought the School of Civil Engineering in with us, partnered with them, and we're able to both work with these people, but also we always have this contract that everything we develop will go onto the online writing lab into the writing across the curriculum section, so that we're building that section and making something permanent at the same time as we're doing temporary work with other people. And I think that one of the reasons that, I know the reason the Gates Foundation came to us was because now we're getting something like 180 million hits a year on the online writing lab because we've been developing for the past 6, 7, 8 years these materials that we're getting other people to pay for. So I think that's the back end of the Cinderella moment when you get FOMO.